It's Spotlight Indianapolis. And here's your host, Lisa Howe.
Good morning and welcome to Spotlight Indianapolis. I am honored this morning to welcome to our studio representatives from a local organization most of you have probably never heard of. It is the Indianapolis Chinese Community Center. The ICCI, as it is otherwise known, was created for many reasons, but its primary mission is focused on improving the social well-being of the Chinese community within Indianapolis. By offering educational, cultural, health, and social programs, they work with hundreds of families each year. The Indianapolis Chinese Community Center was established in 1995, and over the last 16 years has grown into the largest vocational Chinese language school in central Indiana. This morning, I am very pleased to welcome to our program the president of ICCI, Renhua Li. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You've also brought your vice president, Chambo Shung. Good morning.
Good morning.
And also Touching Mo,
yes,
a board member. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Thank you for coming today. And you've also brought a member and a student, Stan Jacobs.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're all here. Well, before we find out more about your school, I'd like to know a little bit about each of you. Renhua, may we start with you? How did you become involved with ICCI, and what is your profession when you're not the acting president?
Yes, thank you. My name is Renhua Li, and I'm originally from China, and actually I moved to Indianapolis 10 years ago in 2002, February 2002. How I got involved in the ICCCI, actually, when I got here, a friend introduced me to the Chinese community, very small at the time, and they told me there is a Chinese school here. So I had a 4.5-year-old daughter at the time, 10 years ago, and we are anxiously trying to find a Chinese school because we want her to keep learning Chinese. That's how I got involved initially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, besides, on the side, what I do, I'm a medicinal chemist. I do drug discovery research at Eli Lilly and Company.
Oh, very good. Well, welcome. Thank you. And Chambo, would you tell us a little bit about your background, how you became involved with ICCI, and what your profession is?
Hi, my name is Chambo Shung. I came to Indianapolis 2.5 years ago from Houston. Actually, before I joined here, I always thought someday I'll go back because Houston, I have been, my wife and my family have been living there for 9 years. We like the big community, a lot of Chinese.
Uh-huh. So
once my wife got a job from Eli Lilly, she just like Eli Lilly and like this community, but I don't like very much because I think this small town is so chilly. So I always think I should go back. So, but after, every month I fly back and forth, but sometimes I just join the community events like Dragon Line Dance, the New Year celebration.
Yes.
I found it so beautiful place. Everyone love this community. They love each other. They help each other.
You underestimated Indianapolis.
Yes,
there you are. We're glad you're here.
I'm glad I eventually like this place. I found a job in 2009. I joined Dow AgroSciences.
Very good.
So then I was recommended to join the board to give, make more contribution to this community service. And probably I worked pretty hard. Sure. I was elected as next president.
You are the vice president now, but you're the president-elect.
Yes,
very good.
I'm very happy to be here to introduce some of our activities, our culture, our missions, and share with you our ideas.
Thank you. Well, we're so glad you're here. And Mo, tell us about you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Chai Kim Mo. I came from the mainland China. Actually, I joined Indianapolis in 2000 from Israel. Maybe you know that country.
Yeah.
So I came here to the IUPUI, to the research, as a research associate. And then during that time, I tried to find a Chinese school for my children. Actually, in Indianapolis, there are 3 Chinese schools. In the IUPUI, there is one. The second one is in the Indianapolis Chinese Church in the Carmel area. Mm-hmm. There is another school in the ICCCI who is located in the Carmel High School. So we finally choose the ICCCI because I choose the ICCCI Chinese school for my children. So I joined their activity. I found their activity is much more fun. We can show our talent, our culture, and our performance to our audience, to our communities. I enjoyed the fun, and I joined the team leader as a Dragon and Lion Dance. So later I was appointed as an outreach director, and I welcome all the volunteers and all the interested person to join our community service.
Right out of the gate with this interview, he's outreaching to the community. Did you catch all that? I encourage you to join us now. Very good. Well, welcome, sir. I'm glad you're here. And Stan, good grief, you have been on the Spotlight program before. I know that many of our listeners will remember that Stan has his own local company working within the hotel community. It's called Hospitality Performance Systems. But the reason you were here, you're also an accomplished writer and had just penned your second book. So today you've come, I find that you are a student at ICCCI. I guess my first question is, when do you sleep?
There's no sleep is boring. Yeah. Why spend that time? Yes. No, it's true. I am a student at ICCI.
That's great. Yeah. And you and your family is an ICCI.
The whole family's involved. Yeah. We actually sought out a Chinese school when we moved back here from living in London. Yeah. We relocated back here in 2009. And when we got back, we looked at various schools. We learned about, all three of the schools involved, actually. But the one at Carmel High School seemed to appeal to us the most. And my two daughters, which are both adopted from China, we adopted them when they were infants. They've been in various Chinese schools in every place we've lived, since they were about 5 years old. Now they're 10 and 12. Well, last year, they're getting into their third year now, I think, with ICCCI here in Indianapolis. But last year is when our oldest daughter, who's, as most people can relate to when they're 12 years old, they get a little more vocal. Her comment was, well, if Chinese is so important, how come you and Mom don't learn Chinese? So we said, well,
from the mouths of babes.
And I said, I accept that challenge. And so my wife and I have been taking the adult classes at ICCCI for this past year. Now we're in our second year.
Outstanding. Well, that's great. And Renwa, tell us why ICCCI was formed, and who is your target membership base?
Actually, ICCCI is formed in 1995 by a very small group of parents from mainland China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And since the Chinese community was very small at the time, and they have each family have kids, they realized that they needed to have a place for their kids to study some Chinese language, besides go to the American public schools, and they just want to keep their own language heritage, and so they decided to form a Chinese school.
Oh, nice.
And that's how it formed, and the target members basically is the immigrants from China or with Chinese background at the time.
And what type of services do you provide?
Initially, we only have the school provide the language education. Then during the year past, actually, especially during the past decade, the Chinese population, the Chinese community grew so quick and so big. Now we, from only initial 9 students, now we have 400 students now.
Wow, excellent.
Yes, so we provide the language classes from pre-K to 12th grade, and we use the textbooks parallel to the books used in mainland China. And also we have adult classes. Teaching them STEM well later, and maybe talk about more on the adult classes. And then we expanded our mission to not only provide the education service, we also we formed a large activity group, such as the performing arts group, Dragon Lion Dance. More may talk more later on those subjects. And also we have after-school programs for kids to learn, arts and Chinese martial arts, and drawing class, ballet, etc. And
That's amazing. It's so diverse. You offer a wide variety of different types of programs.
yes.
And is that diversity, the wide variety, to reach as many people within the population as possible? Is that the objective?
Yes, we attracted lots of members. That's started with 20 members at the beginning. Now we have more than 3,000 members.
That's how many. And Chanbo, maybe this is a question for you. How many Chinese families are there in Indianapolis?
I think.
What is I should say Chinese population.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the number, but I've heard it several times from the mayor's office about more than 10,000.
Wow,
than 10,000.
That's impressive. And has there been recent growth? The growth within your school? You say you're up to 400 students now. Is that attributed to more families coming into Indianapolis, or more awareness that you're bringing to the resources you provide?
Yes, it's both. I think the population grew in the past decade. Is according to the census in Indianapolis area, the Chinese population grew 76% in the past circle, and so we recruited lots of good quality teachers, and our organization is basically a volunteer-based organization. So we have lots of parents involved, and the resources come from our members, parents, and lots of dedicated leaders that want to contribute.
Very good. Well, now, Stan, you and your wife participate in the adult language program and other programs offered through ICCCI. What prompted you both to take up the classes? Obviously, you shared a little bit about that, the challenge from your near teenage daughter, but tell us about what it's meant to you and your family.
Well, I think the main reason, first of all, that we got involved was for our daughters. We wanted them, our intent when we adopted our children was to always keep the Chinese culture very much aware and alive for them as they grew up. It's always going to be a part of their culture, And we knew that more questions would arise as they got older, about their country and everything else. We've been back to China in 2008, and that was a great experience. That got them more motivated than ever to learn the language when they came back because they had such a positive experience. But they also wanted to be able to communicate better, and talk more. For us, I think that's all just part of being a family. If that's their culture, we want to be involved with that too. So the adult classes that are taking place right now, I think is fascinating. It continues to grow. Each year the class is almost double the size it was last year, and it's made up of people just like my wife and I that have Chinese, adopted children. But then you also have some parents in the room that have married a spouse that's Chinese, and they're not Chinese, and therefore they want to be able to learn the language better. I think one of the more fascinating ones, though, is we have a young woman in the class who's 19 years old, Alexandra, and she came here. She is Chinese, Chinese parents, but they chose not to teach her Chinese as she was growing up. And or at least the reading and the writing part of it. Obviously, verbal, yes, she can communicate pretty well that way. But she wanted to learn how to read and write, so she took it upon herself at 19 years old to check herself into an adult class and learn the language.
Wow.
And then, lastly, other people are just professionals that they feel it's a benefit to their business to be able to learn the language. Their company's doing more work over there in China, and they want to be able to communicate better. So, and I've also noticed that there's even more and more families starting to show up. It's not all Chinese children attending these classes. There are a number of kids that are attending, sometimes the siblings of a family that maybe have one adopted child, but also it's just some people, they're bringing their kids over here because their kids have expressed an interest in learning the language. So,
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. If you have just tuned in, you're listening to Spotlight Indianapolis, and we're meeting with representatives from the Indianapolis Chinese Community Center, otherwise known as the ICCCI, the president, Renhua Li, his vice president, Chanbo Xu,
Yes.
and Touching Mo have also joined us from the board, as well as Stan Jacobs, a member and student. Mo, tell us a little bit about you've made several references to a dragon dance.
Yes.
Is that one of the programs offered?
Yes, ICCCI accepted offer for Chinese class. They also offer many activity after school class programs. So because of that, so each year ICCCI CI holding a Spring Festival for